Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my ride in Rajasthan, the land of the kings. Very befitting to the name, I am talking to you from one of the beautiful forts in Bikaner, and this is the city where I'm going to start my ride from. One of the first things I noticed about this fort was that it is not built on a hill. Unlike most other forts that I've seen, it's just built on like plain ground. Apparently, earlier this fort was called Chintamani Fort, and then it was renamed now to Junagarh Fort, and the architecture in itself is just mind-blowing. It just shows the extravagant lifestyle. Like, I saw a throne that was made of pure silver. It's completely oxidized now, and it weighs about 350 kgs. There was a silver door weighing about 65 kgs. There is this room called Badal Mahal, which basically the royal families wanted to experience the feeling of rain in a desert, and so this room was constructed in a way that it imitates the rain, lightning and thunder, and then there's also water dripping through the walls, like actual water dripping through the walls, and then there is an underground drainage system for the water to flow off. So even that they've converted into a room so that in like a desert place they could experience rains. And then there's something called Anup Mahal, which to me was the most beautiful part of the fort. That place, they'd used about 85 kgs of gold to construct that place. So yeah, very, very extravagant. This is where I'm going to start my ride from Bikaner, and in the morning I'm going to be heading towards the Thar Desert. So I'll see you then. Alright, Jaisalmer, here I come. Bye Doggo, I'm going to Jaisalmer. From my hotel, it's about 330 kilometers to Jaisalmer. Did you know that the Thar Desert actually stretches into Pakistan also? It is about 85% of it is in Rajasthan, but that 15% is actually in Pakistan. And so there is the border security forces, BSF, even on the Indian side of the Thar Desert. Oh, look at this. I'm riding mostly through flatlands, so even things like this make me feel a little like curious. Jaisalmer to the right, Pokhran to the left. And you know why that city is famous? In 1998, under the leadership of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, there were a series of nuclear tests that were conducted here, and it was called Operation Shakti. So it's after these nuclear tests here that India became recognized as like a nuclear power. Okay, 10 kilometers to go. Wow, so many forts already. Jaisalmer hostel crowd, this is the one. This is the hostel that I'm staying in, and now the plan is to leave my bike here and go for a night camping in the desert. So the hostel itself arranges it. Apparently, there are two more people who will be joining. We're going to go in a jeep, and we're going to this desert, like these dunes called the Kuri dunes, and not the Samson dunes, which are very famous. It's overly commercialized, and there are up to 150 tents there. So instead, this hostel is taking us to a slightly more offbeat, lesser known sand dunes. Also, today is a no moon day. So I'm hoping in the night I'll be able to see a lot of stars. We are in Kuri dunes, and we're just sitting here and watching the sunset behind us. I also did a little bit of paragliding here. It was super fun. So the plan is that we will come back here and then just camp in under the open sky. But before that, we'll first head back to a common space. There's going to be a folk dance by the Kalbelia tribes. It is one of the tribes that live here in the desert lands. So decades ago, these Kalbelia tribes, the men used to catch and trade snake venom. But after the Wildlife Act was implemented in India, they're not able to do that anymore. And so now they join the women who were always into like performing arts, and they would dance. They're called the snake tribes because their dance mimics the movement of a snake. So the men now play the musical instruments while the women perform this folk dance. So we're going to go and watch that in a bit. And after that, there is dinner arranged here. Something I found very interesting was there's this caged tree here that's growing all through the desert. And there is beans that come from this tree, which is what people cook and eat here. So apparently there were famines here in the 1890s and then somewhere in 1990s also, where there was no food for the people here to survive on. So they used the bark of this tree to make like a flour from it, like atta, and then they made roti using this powder, and that's what they consumed, and that's how they survived that famine. So now they're using the beans of this tree to make sabji. It's a very famous sabji, so that's something that we're going to go and try. Also, this is the tree that's also mentioned in the Atharva Veda. Apparently, the first sacred fire was used by rubbing the branches of this tree along with banyan tree. So it's also mentioned in the other Atharva Veda, not as Kechri, but in some other name.
सोने की धरती और चांदी को आसमान, अरे रंगी रंगीलो मारो रस भरी ए प्यारो राजसी था। वो बगिया क्या जिसमें माली नहीं, वो बगिया क्या है जिसमें माली नहीं, और वो रसोई घर भी क्या जिसमें टूटी फूटी दो चार थालियां नहीं।
What a beautiful experience. Oof. These are the Kuri dunes, and it's just not commercial like the Sam dunes. They say that the dunes are even a lot higher here in Kuri. And there were so many stars in the night. It wasn't too cold. The blankets that they gave were just perfect. It kept me so warm. And in the night, it looked like there was nobody around me. But when I woke up this morning, I saw that there were a few beds a few meters away from me. So it wasn't all that scary either. Just beautiful experience. All I really did was just keep looking at the stars all night. Even after going to sleep, suddenly I'll just wake up in the middle of the night to see if the stars are still there. And yeah, just one of the best experiences in Jaisalmer. I'm in Jaisalmer city, and it's just around time for sunset. So I'm walking to a lake called the Gadasar Lake. But on my way there, I thought I'll tell you a little bit about Jaisalmer. So around 400 years back, there were a lot of traders and merchants who would be passing along the Silk Route, like merchants from China who were going into Central Asia. So in their path, they had to cross across these very treacherous mountain paths called the Pama Mountain somewhere in Tajikistan. So instead of going through that path, they would often choose to travel through the Thar desert instead. And so because of that, Jaisalmer sort of became this place where they would cut across, and a lot of these merchants would cut across and go into Central Asia. So at that time, when they were traveling, they would have to bear with a lot of weather conditions, lack of food, scarcity of water, but also a lot of looting would happen along the way. And so at that time, there were the Bhati Rajputs here who were part of the Yadava clan, and the rulers at that time told the merchants that if they paid a certain tax, if they paid some taxes, they would be offered protection, and they would also be offered some food, water, just some comfort for their travel. And so a lot of traders started coming along this route, and they were offered protection. So that's how Jaisalmer sort of became this hub. In the year 1156, one of the kings from this Bhati Rajput clan made this place his capital and named it after himself. This king was Raval Jaisal, and so the city is named Jaisalmer. And he also built this mud fort that is behind me at a distance right there. It's called the Sonar Killa because it is made of yellow sandstone architecture, and Sonar Killa literally translates to golden fort. When the sun sets and the rays hit the fort, it has this very golden hue, almost mimicking the color of the desert, and that's how it got its name. That's why it's called the Sonar Killa. You know, a very unique thing about this fort is that like usually when you walk into a fort, it's just open spaces and it's abandoned, like there will be no people inside except for the tourists visiting. This fort is very different. There are 5,000 people living inside the fort to this day, and like actually living in it. If you walk through the fort, like through any of the gates, there are people washing clothes, putting it outside for drying. There's like pressure cooker sound, people cooking food, like a typical household lane. So I was wondering whether people actually pay rent or do they buy land? How are they living here? It seems it's completely rent free. Like historically, their ancestors have lived in this fort. They used to work with the king. The king allowed them to live in the fort, and so over time that tradition is just continued. It's a very like small close-knit community. Only they are allowed to live in the fort, and yeah, it just continues to this day, rent free living. Excuse me. Whoa. These are some big horses. I don't want to scare them. Can I go? So majestic. Good morning. It is 8 a.m. So foggy, and I'm out here on my bike to ride 130 kilometers one way. I am going to ride to the India-Pakistan border at the far end of Rajasthan. Now see, Jaisalmer is already the last city, I think the last city which is closest to the Pakistan border in Rajasthan. But even from Jaisalmer, for me to actually go to the border is another 130 kilometers plus 20 to actually get to the border. So that's 150 kilometers from the last city. And what I didn't expect was that it's going to be so cold. Camels! Spotted camel, spotted camel. Yeah, there's so much fog here. It's so cold. I wasn't expecting it to be this cold at 8 o'clock. So the place that I'm going to is Tanot and then to Longewala. So cold, I'm going to shut this now. Nine o'clock, and it's just getting foggier. Actually, at this point, it's a lot foggier. I can't even see. Uh-oh. Slow down. There's someone here. Yes. Why is he asking me to stop? Who is he? Hanji? Hanji?
इस मंदिर में हूँ, जाना था मेरे को तनोट तक.
क्या?
इस मंदिर में हूँ.
कौन सी मंदिर है?
ये है ना टेम्पल, ये रहा सामने.
कौन सी मंदिर है ये?
ये माता दुर्गा का मंदिर है.
नहीं नहीं, हम तो तनोट ही जा रहे हैं.
मेरे को तनोट जाना था.
हाँ,
मेरे को तनोट जाना था.
ओह नहीं, मैं नहीं ले पाऊंगी, सॉरी जी. थैंक यू. He just wants a lift to the temple. Yeah, this is where I'm like conflicted, because I do want to help him, but I also have to be careful with who I take on the road, and in places that are so isolated. Yeah, I just hope that someone else can help him. Someone in a car, maybe. I see camels, I see camel. Oh, so many. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi, camel. Hi. 5. There's one more there. I won't do anything to you. Camels, but they didn't wait for the camera, they left. This temple and the Tanot Mata Devi temple are all funded, constructed, and also now managed by the BSF, the Border Security Forces. And there is an aarti here every morning and every evening for 1 hour, where all the Jawans come and then they sing the aarti. It is something that I would love to experience, except that the morning aarti is 7 a.m. and the evening aarti is 6:30 p.m. Both those timings, I couldn't make the morning one. I don't think I can stay until 6:30 either. But the reason that they've built and constructed these temples and why there's so much devotion here is because in the 1965 war, there was a situation where all of the Jawans heard many bombs dropping. And it was a situation where they couldn't do anything. They were just waiting for the bombs to explode. But none of the bombs exploded. And first bomb, second bomb, third bomb, they were thinking that it's just like by chance, it was just luck. But then after that, there were around 3,000 bombs that were dropped that did not explode. And it is said that it is because of Tanaut Mata Devi that their lives were saved. And you know what I just noticed? Look at the size of the dunes behind me. So high. I want to climb up. I made it to the top, only to realize it's not the top. It just keeps going higher up.
चलाता नहीं था मैं टाइम नहीं चलाता
अभी सीखा आपने वैसे?
मैं कभी सीखा हूँ
ऐसे हाँ ठीक है बाय ललित बाय such a sweet 14-year-old boy, but he was teasing me saying what is your top speed, and I said I usually don't go beyond, like on this bike I've not gone beyond 105 or 110, somewhere there. So he said, huh, I do that on my Splendor. What rider. I have been humbled. My next stop and the last stop is the War Museum at Longewala. It is 35 kilometers from here. What a road! That was a very nice experience. There are a lot of sections there at Longewala. There is a war memorial dedicated to all the warriors who lost their life. Then there is a section where there are a lot of these bunkers that were used during the 1971 war. So you can just walk through that entire path. There are about 10 bunkers there. And then there is a section which is the museum, which was my favorite section. Because there were a lot of stories about how this war was fought and what were the conditions, how eventually things turned around for India. Oof, it gave me goosebumps multiple times. Really, really nice. So Jaisalmer on the whole has been such a diverse experience. Like I really, really loved the night stay at the desert, and the fort was something else, like something that I've never seen before, is people living inside a fort and just no separation between fort and their houses. And then the whole border of Rajasthan has a very different feel to it. So overall, amazing. I loved it, and it is my last day in Jaisalmer. Tomorrow I'm leaving to a new place. So that brings me to the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for riding with me. I'll see you on my next ride. Bye. Say bye.